Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. Today I am joined by a composer. Now, this composer reached out to me on my emails, which, as most of you know now, I don't check often. So I got this email in my inbox. I'm going to read it out to you. And the title was, you can understand why I jumped at this. The title was Star Wars Placement at 17, thanks to your podcast. I was like, oh my God. So obviously I opened it. The email was from a composer called Jiri Nemec. And I know I've said his name wrong, and I can see him wincing as I'm saying it, but it's the best I could do. I'm sorry, Jiri. So this podcast interview we arranged based around that email. It was he even in the email he even mentioned the Nacho Woods, which for any of you who've listened to this podcast before will know that that's me rambling on my phone, walking around in the woods and the crunchy leaves. So I made a joke that it sounded like I was walking on nachos. So I'm incredibly excited to have Jiri on the podcast because, as most of you know, I didn't get my first trailer placement till I was about 29. So Jiri has got 12 years on me already. And the fact that he even attributes the slightest part of that to this podcast makes me feel incredibly, incredibly honored. And it really reminds me why I do this podcast. It's to help everybody get into the industry, understand the industry, and know that they're not alone in those darker periods. So, without further ado, welcome Jiri to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a really nice introduction, and I'm so glad to be here because, yeah, as you mentioned, I've been a fan of this podcast for a super long time, and yeah, I was imagining just like 3 years, like 3 years in the past, I was imagining being here and just telling my story, and it was like a fantasy for me at the time because I haven't really believed that I will get in the industry, or for sure not as quick as I did. So yeah, the podcast was a huge help, and I couldn't really imagine being here without the podcast for sure. So yeah, thank you.
Dude, so
Thank
happy
you
to have
for
you on here.
doing the great stuff.
Mate, it's so cool. First of all, the fact that you've then gone into mention about doing that whole manifesting thing, which I talk about in the 5-year plan episode, where I talk about like writing down your goal and then living it, writing it down as if you are doing it. I've just done the interview on the Trailer Music Composers podcast, telling you about my placements. It's awesome, and the fact that you are 17. Okay, you're soon to be 18, but still, that's amazing. So I'm sure the rest of the listeners are as keen as I am to dive into the story, but Yuri has reminded me that I have neglected to ask one of the most pertinent questions on the show, which is if you were going to be a musical instrument, what would it be? So,
Yeah, and I have both the vegetable question and the musical instrument. So, should I share also the vegetable one or just leave it to the
yeah, let's
instrument?
start with the vegetable. Go on.
Okay, let's go. So, I'd say watermelon because it's still vegetable, at least in our native language. It's super sweet and just different from any other vegetable. So I really think about me that I think we all are kind of those watermelons because each of our is completely different. And yeah, you've really nicely just introduced that question or that topic in your email in the quiet whispers, and I really like resonated with it because we often try to be someone else's or just live or pretend we are someone else, and I think it's just not really good in a sense that we are not living our truest selves and we are the best when we are living it. So I think we are all kind of watermelons. It was kind of silly thing, but I think it kind of explains that question. So, and regarding the musical instrument, I'd say piano for sure, because it was the musical instrument that introduced me to composing and to making music. So yeah, and it kind of also shows off my personality in a sense that I think I can really just live with just me, in a sense that I, as most of composers do, I'm just completely happy composing, just locked in the studio, not really uh, interacting with anyone else. But as piano do when it's, let's say, in a duet with violin or stuff like that, I think I can really well collaborate with other people, and I also enjoy that. But I'm not, let's say, an orchestral person in a way that I would like to have around me lots of people or be introverted in this kind of way. So yeah, I'd say piano would do it.
So ideally, it would be a piano made out of
Yeah.
watermelons. A
It would be a
watermelon piano.
watermelon piano.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, this
The
note's
watermelon
squishy.
season starts now, so hopefully.
Oh, amazing. There we go. In fact, actually,
We'll see.
you mentioned my newsletter, The Quiet
Yeah.
Whisper. I've been listening to a musician called Tom Rosenthal at the moment, and one of his most well-known songs is called Watermelon, and
Oh,
the only lyrics are watermelon. I think it's like watermelon, watermelon, watermelon. So you should check it out. It's
pretty creative.
yeah, that's
Pretty
it. Yeah,
creative lyrics, for
yeah,
sure.
totally.
Yeah.
Right. Mate, I love that. Actually, I love the fact that he talks about embracing your difference as a positive thing, you know, and that you're quite
Yeah.
happy to be locked away writing.
Yeah, I
So,
was kind of a long time tried to just pretend I am someone else, just like being not the truest myself, but just like some kind of barrier between me and the world. The same goes for that I haven't really told anyone, and some of my friends that are not as close to me sometimes just don't even know that I am 17 and think I'm, let's say, 22 or stuff like that. I haven't really announced it anywhere. I don't have it on Facebook, and I was kind of feeling that I won't be accepted when I would just tell that. And yeah, but I kind of recently just try to really own that fact and embrace it and use it. So yeah,
well, I mean, the fact that you've got a Star Wars placement under your belt at the age
yeah,
of
thanks.
17 is,
It's just Endor Star Wars, but still,
hey, no.
it's
You
good.
can't just be like, no, it's only Andor. Like, oh no, it's not. Because let's be honest with you, there hasn't been a Star Wars film for a while, you know. So I
Yeah,
think
so it's
any Star Wars, it's like any Marvel, you know.
yeah,
Although one could say, okay, it's not a trailer,
or
it's not the
Avengers,
feature
or
trailer
yeah,
one. It's who cares? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's Andor. Oh, that's rubbish. Yeah, it's
but
like,
to be honest, I've saw a few episodes from the Endor, and I really liked it. I think they did a good job with that film.
you know,
Definitely recommend.
I'm going to
Have
admit
you
I
seen it?
haven't watched it yet. No, I'm
Oh,
still trawling through the Mandalorian series at the moment,
yeah, the
season,
Mandarin
yeah,
is great.
which is
But
awesome.
I'm also, yeah,
Yeah. Imagine that. Yeah, I got a Star Wars trailer, but it's only the Mandalorian. So, you know.
yeah, it's
Anyway, right. I mean, what was I doing when I was, I definitely wasn't writing cool trailer music when I was 17. I think aside from sort of writing songs on my guitar at 17, I was working in a shop called Toys R Us. So there you go. I can definitely tell you the 17-year-old me would have liked a Star Wars placement at that time. Uh, Right, so let's dive into the story. Now, I'm really keen to know how you got to where you are now, which is getting placements at the age of 17. So,
yeah. Okay, so as I already mentioned, when it comes to the piano, I was kind of introduced to the whole compositional world, or I really liked listening to all kinds of music, Beatles and stuff like that when I was really young. But When I was 10, I got a piano from my parents. It was that stage piano, Yamaha, which has MIDI output and stuff like that. So it was kind of great beginning, but it still had that piano sound. And so I started learning that. The first like half of a year I had a piano teacher, but then I just so I wasn't really enjoying it. He forced me to play scales and stuff like that. You know, you have been a piano teacher, but I guess you have been a better one. So yeah, it was a really young one, and I wasn't really satisfied with that. So from the time I left, and I decided to learn piano myself, and I was really into that stuff. So I would just like sit behind the piano for hours and hours a day, just trying to figure out how to play, whether why via ears or just listening to the music or learning notes. But I wasn't good at notes, so I uh, really quickly uh, embraced my ears and just learned to when I listen to kind of some kind of, let's say, pop music, I'm able to play that. So it was like that. And important thing to mention is that from fourth grade in elementary school, uh, I changed to homeschooling. So I was like learning everything myself, and my parents helped me with that. I am such a grateful for this opportunity that my parents really believed in me and gave me this possibility, because otherwise I'm sure I wouldn't be here having steroids placement, because it was just much more time, but it was also a challenge to learn time management and how to really focus on learning that stuff myself. So yeah, I think fast forward to 2020 when the COVID hits, that was the time when I really just thought, after listening to Two Steps from Hell and other music like that, I haven't really known that there is something called trainer music. I just know the epic music that I liked, and I thought, well, when I can't go out or anything, I will just kind of get this DAW, it was FL Studio at the time, and just learn how to make that just with the use of YouTube. Yeah, and I'm not sure if you know Alex Mokala tutorials.
Oh yeah, his orchestral
It's,
mock-ups.
yeah, yeah. It's
Hmm.
funny. He's now living in Czech Republic, so we now know each other. Kind of, we were hanging out uh, before some time. So yeah, thanks, Alex, really for having those super useful tutorials.
Yeah.
And that was basically it when it comes to learning stuff. I when I got a bit better, when I got few free libraries or stuff like that, I also discovered there is something called trailer music, and that was also the time I discovered your podcast, and just kind of getting to know the principles of it and just the existence of the whole thing. So yeah, I think at the time I wasn't really taking it any seriously, just like having fun and trying what I can create. There wasn't really that thought of doing it anywhere in the future professionally. I thought it's impossible to make any money composing music or stuff like that if you are not Hans Zimmer or anyone like that. So then in the summer, I wasn't really focusing much on music because the COVID restrictions just kind of went down. But when there was the winter again and there was everything locked again, I just decided, well, it would be fun if I could make money from it somewhere in the future. So I kind of took it much more seriously, got my first library, Metropolis Arc, and also switched to Cubase because everyone was like composing in Cubase. Hans Zimmer was using it, so well, let's go for it. And yeah, and also that was kind of the problem because I now thought that after spending for me a really big amount of money on the library and the Cubase, I thought I will be able to compose much better music than I did before in much smaller amount of time, and just like clicking one note and it would be done because I've paid the money for the library, right? So, and it wasn't like that. The music was much worse than I did before because I don't know anything about Cubase. I haven't really know the library, and also the thing about Metropolis Arc is that uh, the library, like out of the box, sounds much dirtier, and it's much harder to mix than other libraries. I was using some freebies which were already pre-mixed and they sounded really decent straight out of the box. But this one didn't, so I was kind of depressed from it and thought perhaps it's not for me, trailer music. And I was trying, but I haven't really had the patience to just finish out any music. And yeah, I kind of decided, because I was also really comparing myself to the music I've heard on those trailers, and it wasn't anything even close to it. So I was kind of let's just forget this, and I will probably never make music. And it kind of led me to depression, that when I wasn't creating, I was just like, what to do here? It was just the purpose of my life, which was creating something. I was trying video before it, and I would say I'm a really creative person, and yeah, that was kind of it. But at the start of 2021, I just kind of came around some epic music, or trailer music in this case, I really liked, and I thought, well, let's try it again. It was the summer, so I was kind of in a better mood, I'd say. The winter doesn't help what mood
No.
you're in, but and yeah, so I just kind of thought, well, I would probably have to spend a lot of time learning this stuff, but well, let's just do it. So I started composing every day, just like with the idea that I have to finish the track in like a week or 2 weeks. It was it with the mixing and all that kind of stuff, which I all of it learned myself through tutorials and stuff like that. I was able to, let's say, finish a track in a month, or 2 tracks in a month, and it was a really long process. The music, I wasn't really satisfied with that, but also thanks to your podcast, I was able to deal with the inner critic a bit better, and inner critic was a huge thing for me, for sure, which
Yeah.
I believe for you as well, because you've really mentioned it a lot. I would be kind of interested to hear some short story about you and an inner critic, how you just came around it.
You mean how I get about it, or or a time where it has defeated me?
Yeah, what do you think was the reason of your inner criticism?
Oh, now that is a deep question, and my answer to that will be have to be very broad, because obviously we all learn these inner criticisms from our parents, from our teachers, from our friends. So from our culture, from our society, we learn, or air quotes, learn, absorb what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is productive, what is not, what is useful, what is not. And by that, we have this like constant tape playing
Yeah.
that's constantly judging everything we're doing as good, bad, right, wrong, fast, slow, everything. So uh, understanding that your what is considered right and wrong, and etc., is determined by the way you've been brought up and what TV you watched, etc. You start to understand that, okay, it's all fluid. You could go to another country where they don't think working 9 till 6 every day is the right thing to do. Whereas here in England, you say, oh yeah, I don't actually work 9 till 6. Everyone goes, oh, part timer, because it's everyone's like, but You know, the other thing over here in England is work is supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be fun. And you're like, well, what?
Yeah. That's not just like the new word.
No, it's
Today we can depends on the productivity of the work. I guess lots of people just work from 9 to 5, but didn't really do anything by the time and don't enjoy it. It's, I think, the most thing. When it
yeah,
comes to flow, I see the times just shifts, which I guess you know really well. That you are thinking you have composed for just like few minutes and it's like few hours and stuff like that.
yeah. That's it. That's when you know, oh, I missed lunch.
Yeah, that will happen to me in
Yeah.
just few minutes. Yeah,
Uh,
so I think the inner critic, and you have really great episodes regarding that. So I recommend anyone checking that out if they just feel that they are having that kind of problem with. But the quote I really like regarding creativity is that when you take it seriously, what you are doing, there isn't that creative flow and that light energy in it. So I think just like having fun is the most important thing regarding killing the inner critic. Just like enjoying it and experimenting and stuff like that. But yeah, that was kind of a long journey for me to deal with it, and I always just like even these days sometimes feel that, and a lot of times feel the inner critic just like being there and just telling my music sounds like shit and stuff like that. So it happens. It will be there, just till we die probably. But
the other thing to
yeah,
remember though is that sometimes we hear that voice a lot louder when we're tired.
yeah,
So
that's also
for me, writing in the morning, I don't hear it quite so loudly. Or I'll be able
yeah.
to be like, "Well, okay, shut up." Whereas
I
when I'm
hear it
tired, I'm like,
every
yeah,
time I just, let's say, listen to my music in the evening. This is like the worst things to do, just
no,
checking out your music in the evening. No, no
yeah.
thanks. So yeah, I do it the same way. I just compose from, let's say, 9 to 13 or 14 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's like then getting a lunch and then other kind of work. So yeah, composing in the morning is, I think, the best thing to deal with this. And yeah, so back to the story. Just when I decided that I will take it seriously, but just finish the music, no matter how it sounds, and I also challenged myself to release it then, which was kind of huge things for me because I just thought no one will like it. I was kind of scared of it, but I just released few tracks on YouTube and on SoundCloud. Firstly on SoundCloud because no one was using it, so I felt kind of safer to release my stuff there. And it kind of led to just other composers in a similar level listening to it, just gave me some feedbacks. They kind of liked it, so it gave me some confidence. I've continued with it, and yeah, then really I think important step was to just starting to building some kind of network, building friends between the composers, and also I'm not sure if you know those groups on Discord. I think Alex Pfeffer and Alex Mokala, both of Alexes, has these kind of groups, which was great starting point because people share their music there, and the community is so important thing. And yeah, I've met like met uh, multiple composers at similar level as I was, and that motivate me so much. And in the middle or in the midst of 2021, I just I will give him a shout out because he deserves it. Huge friend of mine, Carlo Selesh, he's also a composer, and he was starting out in a similar time when I was, and we really just like chatted almost every day and some period of time sharing our music, and we were just like, let's send it to some publishers. And I was just not really sure whether my music was at that quality, so I kind of took a break from it and wasn't really just like sending to them. And he just messaged me after some time and asked if I sent some of the music, and I was like, no, I haven't. And he was, well, I did. And one of really, at the time, I thought really cool publisher just replied to him and really liked the music and was releasing just on the new album. So it gave me kind of a confidence that, well, if he can do it, well, maybe I could also try. And that was super important step, which the inner critic also played a big role there, because he was also the inner critic telling me that my music just isn't good enough, and I think would never be satisfied with that. And to be honest, I am not really satisfied with my own music till these days, because the inner critic is still there. So yeah. And so I did messaged a few publishers, I think 5 of them, and nothing really happened. No one responded. I saw, it was funny thing, on SoundCloud you see what people listen to your music. So I was just checking it out and I saw really cool publisher. I just wrote just listening to each of my tracks, but they never replied. So it was kind of dopamine boost, but then just kind of slows down. And I think few months from that time, I got an email in my inbox that one of the publishers really liked my music and that they want to schedule a call. So I was like, yeah, I've made it. It was a huge thing for me. But to that point, I think it just is really important to mention that there was so many low points, that there was so many those just insecurities and stuff like that, and just so much hard work just put into learning music. It wasn't like an hour a day, it was more like 5 or 6 hours a day. And when I wasn't composing, I was always thinking about music, listening to trial music, watching tutorials, listening to podcasts and stuff like that. So it kind of the work paid off, and I just scheduled the call, and which was kind of scary for me as well, because I was, I think 15 or 16, I think 15, and it was like talking with some random UK person when I didn't really know English much, so it was scary thing. But when the call just started, it was super relaxed and fun. And so then there was also a few challenges, because I had to first get a PRO, signed up the contract with them and stuff like that, which was like, I didn't know anything about it. So that was also the time when I discovered Trailer Music Composers Group. You just mentioned it one time, I think in the interview with Cody Still. And I was like, well, let's try it. Let's just sign in there. And I've replied to a few of the posts there, and then just post one question regarding that I'm just like figuring out the pro, and if anyone can help me. When at the time I wasn't anywhere mentioning my age, but I had to mention it on the post because it wouldn't make much sense. Because the thing with PRO, at least with BMI, is that they don't allow you to sign with them when you are not over 18, when you are outside of US. So that's like, I was trying to figure out some way around. And when I posted it, just a few minutes after that, the one of the moderators, Mark Petrie, which was like legend of trailer music,
we're not worthy.
Yeah. And he just replied saying something like, uh, regarding the group, and then that it's insane what kind of music I can compose at that age. So I was like, well, he checked it out. It was just insane stuff. And that led to also a few other trailer music composers just asking me for friend requests and stuff like that. So it gave me really like confidence boost that my music perhaps isn't as bad that I thought it is. So it was like, yeah. So I think this leads to another important topic, which is really the community, the group, just sharing your stuff with other people. So because you never know if your stuff is good enough, if you have that strong inner critic, because it will always say it is not good enough. So the hearing that from other people that it's on a certain level, I think that may really help, and the whole community around it is supportive, and I couldn't really imagine like doing trailer music without it. So I will just skip to start of 2020, when I also decided to release my music on YouTube, which was, I thought it is not an important step, because I saw most of composers having like few hundred streams there, and I was like, yeah, that's like
So we've gone back now. We've gone back, haven't we?
just before 2020. I
Okay.
think few months before 2020, I just decided to release a few of my tracks
Yep.
when
Yep.
also another friend just wrote me that I should do that because he was getting few views there, a few thousand. So I did that. And at the start of 2020, there was just some from YouTube some huge boost, and I just got like 100 subscribers in a day or something like that, and a couple of thousand, and it just kept really counting. And now I have around 20 to 200 to 300 k views on there. So that also led to publishers starting to reaching out to me, and few other opportunities like that, because they heard my music and stuff like that. So I recommend and encourage anyone who is perhaps starting out with trailer music just to publish music everywhere they can, because you never know.
Yep.
There may be few views, but it may blow up and you may get a few million views, like Rock Nardin did. And it was for sure a hard work. I don't want to like take that away, but yeah, there may be some coincidences and just some luck in that as well. So yeah, when the 2020 just came, also other composers and publishers started to reaching out to me. I did few albums with multiple publishers. I think one I did at the start of 2020. Just now, yesterday, I got announced from that publisher that it got placed on a trailer for Our Planet 2 from Netflix. Just like the official trailer, full on, just 1 minute and 30 seconds, the whole track was there.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So you might
Congratulations.
wait. Yeah, thank you. It might wait around a year till you get any things which you probably also experienced. And I would be kind of curious how much time it takes for you to get things from albums you do for publishers.
Oh, that depends on publisher to publisher. And so the quickest I've had it is I've had a placement before the album came out.
Yeah,
That's when they
that's
sent off
fantastic.
I just did a demo for the album. They sent the demo off, and the editor used the demo.
Oh,
So it was still about 2 months. I reckon about 2 months from it being sent off.
what was the
So
trailer for?
it was Breathe.
Oh,
It was a cinematic piano thing. Yeah, so that was the quickest, but it is usually 6 to 12 months.
Yeah,
Sometimes quicker, but that's I don't expect trailers like popping out of the sky because you got to think about the production
yeah,
process. So
yeah, for sure. And it's funny enough, this was like first placement when it comes to album stuff. The first one that just placed. The rest was just customs. So I will
okay,
get to that in a minute. If you don't mind, I will just quickly get some new water here.
yeah, it's all right.
Just you can cut it out
I'm gonna
if it's
press
okay.
pause.
So I left when there were the time then where the publisher started to reaching out, and it led to a lot of writing for briefs which I haven't really experienced before, because till the time I was just making music for myself, and that was kind of challenging. I found that generally the briefs you get are that you get some kind of track and they want you to create with just some brief description, let's say not a copy of that, but just sound like that track, which was kind of uninspiring a lot of times for me, because what kind of brings me inspiration is when I get, let's say, a picture from a film that I have to create music for, or some kind of visual reference, or let's say stuff like that. So when I got just the track and the description, I was just trying to create some kind of sound like that track, and there wasn't really that creativity and then that the joy from it. So
Yeah, it's tricky working to a brief.
yeah,
It's an entirely different skill than it is
and
just to write
yeah,
music you like.
and I would like to just say that for some, like for me, I just can't really write to brief as like, I mean, album briefs. The custom briefs are a different game, and I will talk about that in a second. But I don't really do that, writing for briefs, because I'm just not enjoying it in the way. When I got a brief, I just most of the time get some visual references and just do what I want. And if they don't like it, I will just release it somewhere else and just like that. So I think that is important to mention, because some people may really find it difficult, and it's not that they can't compose trailer music or they are bad at it, but they just don't have that skill, or just are created in a way that the briefs just don't really inspire them. By the way, what are you doing to get inspired by the briefs? Is there any in your process? Because I think you are really writing to briefs. I would be really interested.
Yeah, that's my main thing, writing to briefs. The first step is obviously making sure that the music you're writing is music that gets you excited, because no matter how good a brief is, if it's in a style that doesn't necessarily excite me,
Yeah.
I find it difficult. Uh, but generally, I will try and find the emotion, find the mood behind. So if they send you a load of reference tracks, you just think about whatever mood, whatever reference, whatever feeling that they're trying to convey, because that's essentially what the brief is. They're like, as much as there will be things like signature sounds or something that they're trying to emulate, they're trying to get you to get that same vibe, that same feeling. So that's usually how I get to it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely agree. I also need the visual reference when it comes to that, because otherwise it just doesn't really, I don't know where to start and when to get inspiration from, because when you see the visual, you just immediately know that there is some kind of story behind it, and you just start to create it in your head. And I found it really inspiring, because I just, from that one photo or a wallpaper or just screenshot from a movie, I just start to create the story, and that starts me to inspire what to write.
yeah.
And yeah, I think this also, the problems with the briefs also just uh, was together with that I was composing the same stuff over and over again, that orchestral hybrid stuff, and I was just doing the same steps, and there wasn't really experimenting much. I wasn't really on a level like you are, or like even like I am now, and most of the composers, but I was already thinking that I just can compose trailer music, and I wasn't learning new stuff. So that also led me to not really enjoying writing music again, and there were really frequent burnouts and stuff like that. So it kind of, even though people would say that when you just get into the publisher game and into the door of the trailer music industry, it just the easy stuff comes, but it's not like that. It's
Where
lots
did
of
you hear
challenges,
that?
lots of challenges to come. And I personally thought that when I will get published, it's like a win. And yeah, so it wasn't like that.
Some of the most difficult challenges I have had as a composer have come when my foot is well and truly in the door. That,
Yeah, I
I look
agree.
back and go, oh, it's actually not so bad when I didn't have publishers to write for, or when I wasn't landing much, because it just invites all these other challenges, and you just don't know that, and no one talks about it either. So
Yeah, that is the important stuff, because everyone just talks about how they get published, and then it's like, yeah, you just
yeah, then it starts
not. It's
raining
not like that.
placements for everyone, doesn't it?
So it was like that. So I just had to reignite that passion, which was kind of starting to composing just for me again. It was like just screw those briefs. I will just make music that excites me and that I want to write. And
Yeah,
also another important thing was I discovered that book called War of Art. Not sure if you know it.
War of Art, the book.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
you know it,
I
right?
do. Yeah, I
So it
forget the name.
was a huge inspiration for me when it comes to the creativity process, because I had that kind of mindset that the trail music or music in general is just like kind of work, and there is not a lot of creativity. I was just looking from up for regarding all the creative thing, and just thought that we are just doing a profession. We are just create making something which isn't really doesn't really have that creative spark in it, with which was completely wrong. But yeah, that trailer industry kind of just suggests that as most of the music is really the same thing, and yeah, you have just to get the structure right. You have all these things to just check off, and there isn't much just a way for the creativity to come when it comes to that. But this view just changed when it comes to this, and also listening to yet again another of your episode where you just explained what you did when you had that burnout. I think uh, starting to learn new stuff and stuff like that,
Yes.
there was a huge inspiration, because I was just at the same time going through the exact same period. So
Well, it still surprises me every single time I get an urge to do one of those podcasts where I talk about something like burnout or anxiety or this.
yeah,
All of a sudden, everyone goes, "Ah, I thought I was all alone." Then you go, "Ah,
it's these podcasts just helps so much, knows that someone who is already in the game established and stuff like that
yeah,
is still going through those feelings and those
yeah."
anxieties. So yeah, and these two things just like motivated me to learn more stuff, uh, just watch more YouTube videos again. I wasn't really learning anything, and I started to enjoy it a bit more, writing music just for me, because I wasn't really sure how to just go about the briefs. And that kind of changes when I got to do my first custom with Ghostwriter. It was through another friend who just asked me, "Hey, do you want to do a collab on this custom for Oppenheimer?" I think it was. So it was kind of cool one. So I thought, let's try it. It didn't land it, but started doing a lot of customs with them, and the Star Wars Andor was a third one, I think. The third
Wow.
one I did, and well, after a month of waiting, I wasn't really having any expectations, which is also an important thing, as I heard a lot of stories from you and other composers, as most of the custom just didn't really land. I was like thinking, well, I enjoy this, and I may use the music further in the future somewhere, perhaps redo the orchestration or stuff like that. So just the stuff that I was enjoying it, and the the goal of doing the custom wasn't to win it. It was just to enjoy the writing process for me. It was just the pure process when it comes to this, and this mindset really just motivated me to stay and to improve when it comes to custom stuff. And when it did land, it was like huge, just like I was
I got
just
Star Wars.
jumping few meters ground. And well, then I just continued motivated by this, but still wasn't really expecting any of the customs to land. So I wasn't depressed if they didn't, which most of the customs I didn't really land. I
Yep.
did about, I think, 30 to 40 customs with them in just the second half of 2020, which was
Wow.
just like few customs a week sometimes even,
Wowzers.
which was crazy. So but when it comes to customs, it also taught me to compose a full-on trailer tracks in just a couple of hours, in just 2 hours me and 2 hours another composer, and it was really fun working on it. Also, you get those interesting briefs that you just don't get when it comes to the album stuff. You get just what movie are you working for, so you just can pull up the references and stuff like that. You sometimes know the story of the trailer, what is going to happen there. You also know some creative kind of challenging briefs from the editor, which isn't a music composer, so the briefs are kind of a bit more raw, and I just kind of like that approach a bit more than if anyone tells me that I have to use these instruments, have to make this thing, and I'm just like thinking, well, if you are a composer and a publisher and you just write this to me, well, why don't you compose it yourself? It's like no challenge there.
Yeah. It's very interesting hearing you talk about customs in such a fond way because
Yeah, I me and other composers, I know few composers that are also really enjoying it, and
Yep.
I think it's just about that mindset,
Yep.
that it's these things. Yeah. And
Yeah,
also,
yeah, you're right.
yeah, and also I really enjoy uh, doing let's say overlays and covers, not so much anymore, but I really did enjoy it because I like working with vocals and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun challenges for me, and it did bring some results which the albums didn't really when it comes to this. And
Yep.
by the way, have you heard about design thinking? That it's kind of, and I think it's good to bring it here. It's way that designers work with briefs, with stuff like that they get from a client, some insight, some stuff that they want to create. But the brief is so important to structure it in a way that it is uh, enough borders. There are enough borders. It's really straight, but still they don't tell you anything about the execution. So
Oh,
you just have pure creativity when it comes to the execution, but the brief is super detailed when it comes to what it has to do. So it just really leaves you the creative space. I recommend everyone who just finds working with briefs from publishers really hard, checking out podcast called The Crazy One. If you don't mind that I am promoting also some other podcasts,
Dude,
which is
it's I
from
like promoting other
yeah.
people's creativity. So, what's the podcast called?
Yeah, me
The
too.
Crazy
This
One.
is from a designer. This
Oh,
is from a designer and creative leader that worked with brands like Apple and stuff like that.
yeah.
And he just talks about the creativity and the principles of design thinking in one of the episodes, and it just really helped me to see clearly why I wasn't able to compose for briefs, because the briefs are just structured in a way that for me just kills all the creativity, don't just sparks it.
Yeah.
So
You'll have
yeah,
to send me. You'll have to send me the link for that episode
okay, I will
and the
send it to
podcast.
you.
I'll put it in the show notes.
And the customs, on the other hand, really just did this in a way that inspired me. So yeah, it was like that. And also then I just landed few other customs, like Willow, which was from Lucasfilms, and then recently one I did like a couple of months back with other composers for Super Mario Bros movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was just one boom used just for
Hey.
a
No,
fun
no, no.
thing,
See,
just
there you
sound
go.
effects.
There you go
But
again.
it's
It's just
still,
Andor. It's just a boom.
yeah,
Hey, no
that's
one
my inner
cares.
critic,
Like,
just like going there all the time. I'm just thinking how better it could be if something, but yeah,
but think about it like this: when a single boom or bram or whatever it is, a single sound lands on a trailer and pays you X amount of money, you think, wow, the time to income ratio for that sound is exceptionally high, you know?
yeah. But it's just like you do 30 to 30 customs to just 3 of them land, which is still a really good ratio, but I just count 2 of them as like real customs, real like placements, because uh, when it's just the sound effects, it's the time spent on it was really small, and the time spent on all the other customs was just immense. So yeah, it was like that. And we are,
That's sorry, just to
yeah,
interrupt. That's a 10% land ratio, right? That's if so that's
yeah,
basically if you're doing an album, that's one in 10 tracks is going to land a trailer. That's pretty good.
if we count the sound effects from in the Super Mario, then it's about the 10, or I did a bit more than 30. I did like 35 or 40 customs even, so it is a bit less of a ratio, but there is still chance some of them may land, because some of the films haven't been released yet. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, the other thing with customs that I'm not sure I talk about much is that if you do a custom with a library and a trailer house, and it doesn't land on the trailer they're cutting to, it might then land on one of the other trailers they're working on. So I had that a couple of times working
Yeah.
on a custom for a feature length, and then it landed on a TV spot. So
Yeah, I agree. I know that Ghostwriters is pitching the music like still, if it was even few years old, they will still try to pitch it on some other trailer, because why not? Why not just save some time? So yeah,
yeah,
it's like that. And well, we are kind of getting to the end, which was a long story, but then the 2023 came, and I was like, well, there isn't really much of a challenge anymore when it comes to trailer music. I did the Star Wars, and what kind of would I want to do next? It was like that. I am not really enjoying the customs as much anymore, because no one just hears the music. That's the thing. you just do so much stuff and no one hears it. It's same with industry only albums, which is most of the stuff. So I was just like thinking what motivated me the most was just seeing the feedback or the comments from, let's say, YouTube, that people are really listening to my music, that they are really enjoying it and stuff like that. Because most of the trailers you do, the one I had just right now was really, I'm really proud of it. But most of the customs are just like, it's like 2 hours of writing, so it's generally not really good sounding track, which is kind of the thing that first no one knows you wrote it, and no one isn't really enjoying it because it sounds like shit. And why bother with it just for the money? It doesn't really make sense to me. So I was thinking that I would like to create more music that's just, I'm enjoying it, and people who are like me, that are listening to it just like alone, the music alone, are enjoying it. And there may be some possible sync possibilities for that, which may be lower than industry only albums. But this was kind of that thought for me in for the 2023. So now I'm working on an solo album I want to release publicly under my name and stuff like that. Will hopefully came in the end of July. So yeah, super
Exciting.
excited for that.
Yeah.
And I just was kind of thinking, let's also try something new. So it's not like pure trailer music. It's kind of blend of trailer music, pop, EDM, and stuff like that with a pop structure. So really enjoying it, just like working with few singers right now on that. So yeah, super excited for that. And
Awesome. That's why
yeah,
that's actually one of the reasons why I like Chill Step, because Chill Step has that kind of like
yeah,
epic sound to it, but it's got like the pop structure, vocals, like yeah,
yeah,
it's just great. Well, also all the dubstep elements of it as well, which is
yeah, for sure. Do you
yeah.
know Apache?
No, I don't know. No.
Oh, and do you know the music from League of Legends? That kind
Oh
of,
yeah, yeah,
I guess you know the stuff like Legends Never Die, Rise,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm a big fan of that and trying to make something similar to that, just like with that inspiration mixed with
Nice,
trailer music and Imagine Dragons. So yeah, that's kind of my goal
awesome.
for this. But just like going from that trailer mentality where is everything just industry only, to kind of more of that artist range, uh, where I want to build some kind of fan base and uh, just make music that people just enjoy listening to, not just the trailer. So yeah, that's kind of the way I want to go for now.
You and I are on a very, very similar page right now, which I'm sure you know because you're subscribed to my newsletter. Uh, but I just want to say as well, on that note, for those of you in the audience who are interested in going to the commercial route, which is where you are focusing on yourself as an artist,
Yeah.
if you do it properly and do it right, then you can still go for trailer placements and you can charge more for them
Oh, that's really
because you are an
interesting.
artist commercially, you know? And that is actually how a few of the trailer houses work. They're not libraries, they are labels. And
That's kind
that's,
of the challenge for me, that I'm trying to find someone to release the track with, which I was asking in the group in about a few days ago. And I find it really difficult to just find a label that would just work as a trailer music label and still releases my stuff under my name and make it public, which kind of uh, is a bit of a challenge. Do you know any labels that are just focusing on that, or we can talk about that
yeah, they don't
later?
outwardly say that they do that. There are a couple whose name escaped me, but what you're essentially talking about is something called a sync rep, which is um, someone representing your music just for sync.
Oh,
So
so
yeah, they could also be music consultants. So that's actually how I got into writing for advertising, because I used to work for a consultancy who would rep music for a label.
Oh,
Um, and there are a couple. My brain has just completely left me. Uh, there are a couple who work with artists. I want to say the Crystal Collective. Is that right?
oh, never heard of them. You will
Yes,
perhaps later on send me or also to the link
I'm sure
show
it's
notes. Send some because I'm sure I know a few friends that are just trying to do the same exact same thing, just going for the artist route and focusing on that. So I think sharing that because as I was just like asking in the trainer music composers group, no one really knew. Some of them had some experience with general commercial labels, and it was just kind of probably only the position music is the known one when it comes to this stuff.
yeah.
And
Position is one of them. Yeah,
so yeah, but it is super hard to get to them, and I know a few friends that failed, but yeah. So I would be really interested to hear more, and we can talk about it later, regarding the, as you said, the sync. Just someone who focuses solely on the sync stuff.
yeah,
Is that, if I understand to it right, is that they don't release the like the album? You just need to release it with, let's say, some kind of general commercial label, and they just represent it just solely on the sync, or that you release it yourself and then they represent it, or how
yeah.
it.
So they would be representing it for sync and sync only. So they're not going to be dealing with any of the publishing or any of that side of things. So whether you go through a label, who will, if you go through a large label, they will probably have a sync department anyway.
Nice.
Um, where if you go with a smaller label, then you could get somebody on board to push your music into sync. I mean, there are services and things, but you don't have to go with a label. You can just release the music yourself on your own platform. You know,
Oh,
upload it onto the
streaming.
aggregators. Yeah, stream the streaming platforms, but
Yeah.
and then find someone who you will say, hey, sell this, or find a home for this for a percentage of the money.
Oh,
Um,
that's pretty cool. I was just like thinking the only reason I would probably go with a label is the sync stuff, that they would pitch the music to the possible opportunities. Because the rest is just like, if you are not a huge artist, they will don't really have that motivation to just push you and to make you a huge fan base. So it's like just the sync stuff was like the thing why to go with a label. And yeah,
yeah.
so this is a great news for me. Definitely.
Okay. There's a podcast you need to listen to. Uh, love podcasts.
Okay,
But actually, there's a couple. You should listen to the Music Marketing Manifesto with John Ojaka, which I think I mentioned in my newsletter. He does his is all about creating your own funnels to sell your music on like Facebook and
great,
Instagram.
definitely going to
Uh,
check that one out.
but this is the funny thing: as CDs, not as streaming, as CDs. And everyone's like, wait a second, no one buys CDs anymore. But actually,
Yeah.
he had one guy on the podcast recently, which was like a metal artist who makes like $50,000 a year just
Oh,
giving away free CDs in this funnel. it's, it's
oh,
just it's really
that's
cool.
insane.
So yeah, the other one is how to build a sustainable music career with Emily White. Now she in each season of her podcast, each she takes you from the start to the finish of writing and producing your own music. So creating
Oh,
your own art as a commercial venture, then music libraries, music publishing, aggregators, sync. It's it's just brilliant. It's really really cool. It's really really thorough. And she's got a book that goes with it as well, which I haven't read because I've just been listening to the
yeah.
podcast. But
I was just like trying to find some interviews like that because I have no knowledges regarding the artist world and the commercial music like that. So I just found out, not sure if you know Sam Tines. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. He's working with producers like Tommy Profit and these kind of uh, alternative slash trailer slash cinematic music, and he's really big in the sing as well as in the artist stuff. He has just like around 5 millions of 4.5 millions streams a month, which is huge when it's mostly sing stuff, what he
Four and a
focuses
half
on.
million streams a month. That's not bad.
4.5. So it is huge, and he's really he was just talking there that he also uses some kind of representatives for the things, and I was just like, I haven't really heard that before, and I was listening to the interview just yesterday, so it was like 2 days in a row someone just mentioning this thing representative, so it is
Yeah.
probably a way to go. So yeah.
Yes. It again, it's one of those areas of the industry that nobody talks about. It's like,
And
okay.
mostly in the trailer music, that's like no
Yeah,
one
yeah,
no
yeah.
one
That's
knows
it.
what it
Yeah,
is.
that's the thing. No one talks about the different. There is a difference between a trailer music library and a trailer music label. Um, so and they will
Yeah,
command different fees because the library will be stuck to a rate card because there's the to the library rates, whereas the label can command they can say no, we're more expensive. So yeah. Anyway, this is fascinating stuff. I think we're going to have to jump to the quickfire round, Jiri.
yeah. I think there was lots of things go through, and I think it may be helpful to someone just know the difference. Anyone who is into the artist stuff, like we both are trying to get into. So yeah.
I the thing is, it's just fascinating, and again, the thing is, it's just another aspect of being a composer, becoming an artist in and of yourself, or at least just writing music for yourself and for other people to enjoy to listen to,
Yeah.
not as a service to land on a trailer and sell movies, but to take the same aesthetic and create music that gets people pumped and go for a run,
Yeah.
or they just sit back and crack open a beer and have a listen to something like that. So yeah,
Agree.
it's
Definitely.
similar page to you, but dude, I absolutely loved hearing your story, and I've loved
Thanks,
how
man.
much detail you've got into as well, because it's really important that people know it's not all like, so I wrote some music, sent some emails, got a placement. Like, it's not all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It may sound like that, but there were so many low points,
Yeah.
even more than the high ones, because you get the high point when you, let's say, get the big trailer, you get the dopamine hit. But if you are not enjoying that super long path of composing the music, that networking stuff and stuff like that, you are just missing 90% of the, or 99% of the enjoyment, because generally the dopamine that comes from the placements or just these big achievements just last for 24 hours, for 48 hours or stuff like that. For
Yeah.
me it's sometimes about a few minutes till I just start saying that it was just
Yeah.
any something. It's really like common for me just to lower the appreciation for the achievements.
Yeah. And that's a habit you should stop.
I agree.
But no, you're totally right. There, I mean, the thing is, you got to kind of think about it like this: that unless you are a well-controlled person emotionally, and you can control your thinking, when you send an email to a publisher, after 5 minutes, you're going to go, "Oh, they haven't replied. I'm rubbish."
Yeah, that's it.
Low point, and it's like every email. And also the other thing, like uploading to YouTube, the moment you upload to YouTube and you don't get 1,000 views in that first minute, you go, oh. So
important thing to mention, I upload the music on the June or July of 2021, and on the end of in like December of 2021, I was getting that boost. Till then, I was just having few hundreds of views in on each track, but it just took half a year till I was getting any kind of stuff. So, but now I see the algorithms. If you have a good thumbnail, it just boosts your music. I see some friends just uploaded music in like few days ago, and they already got like 41K views from it, which is like absolutely huge in like
wow.
just like a week or so. And but this just is depends on a luck and on how good the thumbnail is. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how good the music is, but just how good the thumbnail is. So yeah, I think it
Study
is.
those thumbnails.
And get a good art, or just purchase Midjourney and generate something great.
Yeah, to be fair, until they release the trailer music AI, Midjourney's bloody
Yeah,
amazing for especially for that kind of like fantasy otherworldly artwork. So yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out some good thumbnail for the stuff I've already released on YouTube. I want to get it onto Spotify as well. So that's what I am struggling, and my inner critic is like, "Well, this looks like rubbish. Don't use it. Just try generating something else."
Yeah. Oh, mate. The other trick there is if you find your inner critic going nuts, just stop and walk away for a bit.
Stop.
Stop, do
No
something
one
else.
cares.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. You're going to be the meanest person you know to yourself, so give yourself a break. Right, quick fire round.
Let's go.
Now, those of you in the audience know that I like to do this in the interviews because we all like to talk about our tools. Not like that. We all like to talk about the equipment that we use. Again, that sounds bad. I mean, all of the sample libraries and everything that we use every day, because I think it is really important for us to highlight. Firstly, sometimes there are some gems that I've never heard of, but the other aspect for me is we're all using the same stuff.
Yeah.
And it really highlights to us that watermelon thing of bringing yourself into your music. So, without further ado, what is your go-to piano?
Well, I was using one freebie till like the half of last year, which most of my libraries I used like the first year of composing music. It was just freebies. So I recommend checking out as many freebies as you can get, because you don't need to have huge libraries to make good music. As an example, I will just get my first track, really first trailer track, which has around 150,000 views on YouTube, and it was composed in a day with just freebies.
Oh,
So
nice.
let's just look on that. It's not good production. Now I hear it and I just hear how rubbish it and
Stop it.
bad
Stop
it
it.
sounds. But
What's stop it. What's the track called? And I'll put the link in. I'll put a link in there.
Rise of a Hero.
Hey, right.
That's
So
my
I
first
I
trailer
actually
track.
I actually know that track, and I wouldn't say that is close to anything close to being rubbish. That track is awesome, and I would not have thought it was
So
all freebies.
it's probably different track than you just are talking about, because this name is super used. But
Wait a second. No. I'm pretty sure it's yours because when you reached out to me, I went onto your YouTube channel and
okay.
uh and I went, "Oh, I've heard some of these before." Because obviously
Oh,
I like epic music. So I was like, "Oh,
that's pretty cool.
yeah."
I'm just like, it's the third one that just showed me.
Right, Jiri Nemec.
It's
Here we
not
go.
Birth of the Hero from Two Steps from Hell. Just
Rise of a Hero, 137,000 views.
yeah, it's not 150.
Is that the
Yeah,
first? Is that
so
the one? Rise of a Hero?
yeah, I think it should be the one.
Yeah, it's the first video on YouTube you uploaded.
Oh, yeah, it should be.
In that case, I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put that in the show notes. So you guys
So
in the
everyone
audience,
can just see if it does sound rubbish, if I'm right or if Rich is right, and it sounds good.
you know, I hate to be boastful, but I think I'm right here.
Okay, so we'll see.
Yeah. Uh, the thing is, like, your own negativity aside, writing that quality from freebies really does highlight your point.
And there was no mixing, there was just OTT. I haven't used a single EQ on that stuff, or just used some really basic one because I didn't know anything about mixing and anything about mastering. There is no mastering on that track, just a limiter so it doesn't clip, or it may be also clipping. I have no idea.
You've been
So
listening to
yeah,
too many of my podcast episodes. That's
just like forgot all of your libraries, sell them, just get some freebies, and yeah.
okay. Well, what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to send me a list of all of the free samples you use in that track.
Okay, some of them aren't really accessible right now, so that's like some of them are from Performance Samples, which I love that company, and they've figured out that the freebies are just way too good, so they turned them down and just are selling them. So some of them may not work. So just back to the quick fire round. The For now, the piano go-to is Noir from mm, the
The Nils Fram one. Yeah.
wait, what's the name of
Native
the company?
Instruments.
Native Instruments, yeah.
Yes. So that's
That's
Noir
the
is
one.
Nils Fram's piano.
Oh, I
So
haven't
it's him
heard
sampling
that.
it. So talking about great artists who get to kind
Super
of
emotion.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll check him out for sure. So that's for the piano.
Okay, go to piano tick. Go to strings.
Go to strings, and you mean short or long?
Ooh. If
So
they're
let's
different, give me the two. But
yeah,
if they're the
let's
same,
start with the short ones. I really like the one freebie from Performance Samples. I still use it these days. I just love the sound. It's not a freebie anymore, but
boo.
you just can't find it anywhere. It's the same like with stuff like Decimator. They just turn it down because they thought it doesn't sound very good. But I think similar thing can be done with fluid shorts or stuff like that. I don't have them, so I can't really just compare it. But yeah, it was called something like Legacy Strings, but it's not accessible right now. So if anyone from Performance Samples hear this, just release it. Even if it would be super expensive, it sounds great. So
I reached out to them.
that's
I've been saying, please can I have some free libraries and I'll review them. I didn't get anything back, so you know.
yeah, but their stuff is super awesome.
Yeah.
So another thing regarding the short ones, the I use some stuff from their Pacific strings as well, the low
yep.
strings, I think. And another thing is another freebie I use for shorts, which is also super good, is from Orchestral Tools, the Helix, which comes, I think, in the factory, in the sign factory, when you get that one.
Helix.
So that's for now. I can send you all the libraries if you want.
Oh, sorry, I'll just write them
Then
down now.
okay. So for the long ones, I like to use soaring strings, the legatos there, and also mixed with this stuff from Performance Samples. Yet again, Performance Samples there, and that's for the high strings, and for the low strings, that massive back end stuff. I use a mix of Metropolis Arc 1. There the low strings are just so good. I use That's like the only almost only patch I use from Metropolis Arc are the low strings. And I like to mix the marcatos and the sustains, just to have that attacks
Right.
from the marcatos and then the nice steady sustain of the sustains notes.
Yes,
And
that's it's interesting you do that because when you hear your stuff being played by a live orchestra, you go, their longs have a lot more attack on them. Like
Yeah,
every note
exactly.
has attack. So I know Greg Dombrowski of the Secession, he does that. He layers a short sample at the front of his sustains
Yeah.
or long patches, which I think is a great idea.
Also, Blake Robinson Blackus was talking about it in one of his live streams that he just makes those top notch Star Wars stuff, and he just mentioned that he also most of the times uses different articulations on top of each other just to add that realism. So that's also what I like to do.
Okay.
The same goes for strings, that I like to get one with lots of attack and one with a bit more of that drive in them,
Yes.
the short ones. So that's it for the strings.
Okay. Brass. Dirty brass.
Okay, so there is the one go-to that I use in every track is French horn from Junkie XL. That's like the best one can get for the massive sound, and I like to layer it with angry brass from performance samples again. And there were a freebie angry brass, not sure if still there is.
Yeah, it's still
That's the
yeah.
one I use, the freebie ones. And I should probably get the full one as well.
Why? Like, if the free stuff's doing a good job,
Yeah,
so yeah,
and just to support them, but I think I've supported them a lot
yeah.
in
Oh,
my.
dude, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
It,
and another thing for legatos, for French horn legatos, I like to use again Metropolis arc. The I think 6 or 8, not sure what is the number of the horns, the biggest one, the
it's
biggest
12.
ensemble.
It's 12
12
on it. Yeah.
horns. Oh, so that one just for the legato. Sometimes I use it also in the background for some chords, but I found it just super dirty, the sound, just hard to mix and
Yeah.
make it sound super clean. So that's it for brass.
Okay. And
Just one thing to mention regarding brass is that I don't use any like tubas, or I use trombones from angry
yeah,
brass, but
yeah.
nothing like that. For the low end, I just keep it for the Brahms. I just
Okay. Yeah.
all that stuff.
That's a good note. That's a good note. Okay, dude. I've got to march on because I've got to go.
Me too. So
Drums,
yeah. What? Drums.
drums. Go to drums.
Okay, drums are great. So I really like to use for, let's say, which isn't what you've asked for, but as I'm doing a lot of EDM and pop stuff, I really like Ava Prism, which is uh, just these pop drums, but the sound is so well mixed. Carl Sota did such a wonderful job on that one. But regarding the trailer drums, that's generally a mix of Decimator from Audio Imperia, and the secret one is again from Ava from Carpsta. That's the Aversion drums. That's horror kind of patch, but he has that one secret for folder there which contains like 10 round robins, just one shots, and you have to put them into contact and make a sample library out of them. But he use it, I use it, and lots of trailer composers I know just use this one because it's like straight out of the box, sounds great, and
That's
like I haven't used damage for a long time because this is just everything I need.
so. Wait a second. I missed one. So I've got the
Okay,
Ava Prism for pop. I've got Ava Aversion for the one shot drums that you just
version,
said, and
yes.
there was the one in the middle.
Then Decimator Audio Imperia. That's not selling anymore, but I think
Okay.
it's possible to get somewhere. Not
Okay.
recommending that, unfortunately.
Okay. Go to synth.
Synth. Well, I don't use synths. That's like the funny thing. I use
Ooh,
just samples, like for sub basses. That's the only stuff when I use synths,
yep.
and uh, that's like I use synth sounds, but in a form of sample. Let's say some one shots or the Ava Eminence and all of the libraries from Ava. I just love them and use them all the time, and they have super well designed synths, but it's all already done, and you just are limited with how it sounds like.
Yeah.
So you just can process it in a way, and that's like the you often mention it. The limitation just makes you feel more creative.
It's
So
like the Keep Forest do that as well. You load up a
yeah,
sample of a synth that they've created, and
yeah, exactly.
it's
But
the
to be honest,
business.
I don't use Keep Forest at all by now, just for Brahms, just for one Bram, which is from Warzone. That's
Okay, so
like my signature Bram, and I use it everywhere, just with
okay,
some slight processing. Okay, so
Ram,
that's it for synths, no
Warzone,
synths. Well, I
Keep
should
Forest.
learn how to use synths probably.
Nah, you don't need to.
Okay.
Um, okay, right. Piano, strings, brass, drums, synth. Okay, I'm only limiting you to three
Oh,
effects
that is gonna be
plugins.
hard.
I know, and whenever I say three, no one says three. Everyone lists at
First,
least
yeah.
five or 10. But
Okay. So first thing, and now everyone is going to hate me for this one because the first one isn't the ProQ. I use ProQ by now, but just after being being bullied from other composers that I just have to use this one. But before that, I was using Nova something. It's free one, free
yeah,
EQ, which the only downside of it is that it uses a bit more of your RAM,
okay.
and it's bit on the CPU as well. But it does the same thing, and I'd say even better than ProQ, because with ProQ there is that super addictive interface. It's like it just forces you to make as many different cuts and boosts as you can because it just looks so
Just
good,
looks so
the
nice.
color for, and I think that's really bad thing because the good EQ, I think, is when you have just one dip or
Yeah.
two dips or stuff like that. So when you are limited and you just use it on the good frequencies, and even when it's not visual, because then you just listen to it, whichever frequency is the one that isn't working there. So I think I wouldn't really recommend using ProQ because it's just way too easy and way too uh, just it forces you to make such a mess in your
I can
tracks.
almost hear some people in the audience getting cross with you right now.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know
oh.
all of my friends will hate me for that because all of them uses ProQ.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay, so we've
I
got
am,
Nova for EQ.
yeah. So we have first one which is not ProQ. I think we can leave it
Yeah,
like that.
not Pro
And
Q. Yeah.
the second one is freebie, which I was using for so many times. In all of my old music, I'm trying to get some new plugins, so I'm trying to limit myself on the old ones. But this is Valhalla, not the Room, the Supermassive, the free one, which
I
is
love that.
so good. I use it, for example, on Brahms. It just adds it this nice tail and color that just separates it from all of the other
Yeah,
stuff.
I
So yeah,
absolutely love that plugin.
and yeah,
Okay, last one then. So you
the
got Nova
last one.
EQ,
This is gonna be
supermassive
so hard.
reverb.
I think. Well, oh, this is gonna be super hard. I will probably say just one that I started to experiment with just recently, which is the fragments from Arturia, I think. If I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right,
Yeah,
but it is generally a, I think, granular like processing on kind of sounds. Not sure how it works, but it just creates these super weird sounds from any kind of sound. I just put some kind of loop, some drum loop or stuff like that, or even some vocal loop, and it just creates something I'm not expecting it to create, and it just boosts my creativity so much to hear that I hear in that one thing, I hear something that I haven't heard before, and it just motivates me to compose that into it, if you can
Awesome.
understand. So
Well, that's kind of
that
what you
would
want
be
from
it.
plugins as well. You
Yeah,
want
yeah.
them to kind of like inspire and ignite you. Okay,
And I,
so
yeah, again, mention the Ava stuff. That's like all I use for synths,
okay,
which they
yep,
are not synths.
got it
Okay,
down. Got it
so
all down.
that's
Right,
it.
now last piece of advice for anyone who wants to get into trailer music.
Okay, this is gonna be really tough one. I'd say just you have to love it. If you don't love trailer music enough, that you just put every single minute of your free time into it, you just won't succeed in it. And if you will succeed in it, and if you are doing it just because of the money, you won't enjoy the super long path to getting that your first placement. So just love it and then be patient. Then just put in the time. I'd say that's like super simple, super cliche, but that's all, like all. And if I would have to say, the second one is the community. The importance of community. Again, in this world when we are so separated, when the COVID came or stuff like that, we just forgot that everyone else have the same problems as we do, and that we are on the same boat, on the same page, and we are trying to do the same thing. So it's like, yeah,
Awesome.
the community and friends.
Find your people,
Yeah,
love what you do, and be patient. I think that's pretty great advice, personally.
great. I think we can wrap it up
I
with
think we're
that.
going to wrap it up there. Just end.
Just cut it right here.
Yeah, that's it. I do want to
Great.
say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show, and congratulations on your success. So
Thank you.
it's
Thank you
awesome.
so much. I'm excited and have no expectations, but like no, I'd say no expectations, but I'm open to any kind of opportunities that may come, but just wanted to enjoy it. I'm curious what will come.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks for having me. It was really nice talk, and I learned a lot of new stuff. So hopefully also others enjoyed it.
Oh, I did. It was awesome.